I also made a lot of videos on LinkedIn where I was redesigning websites. So I was taking a look on a website, made a redesign of the hero section, and then explained my process, like what my design decisions were, and put it out on LinkedIn. And this initially, I think, really helped me to not only advance my design skills, because I think this was a really good practice in the beginning, but it also helped me to get recognized.
Welcome to Fractional by Swarm. This is a podcast where we interview top designers, engineers, developers, marketers, and product people who are in the fractional tech space. Take a look at their stories, their journeys, and their passions in life as we help guide you in living your dream fractional lifestyle. Matthias Cordes is a web designer and Webflow developer. He runs his own freelance business and creates high-converting websites for fast-growing technology startups. Matthias had his first freelance gig as a designer after high school while traveling around Australia and Bali. After graduating with a degree in creative technology at the University of Twente in the Netherlands, he pursued his passion by working on his agency full-time. Now, he supports tech companies as a team of one with a specialty in Webflow development. We talk about becoming a specialist in Webflow design and development, building trust and reputation as a freelancer, writing his case studies together with a copywriter, his design collaboration process with clients, ChatGPT for web development tasks, and so much more. This is Alexis, your co-founder from Swarm. Please enjoy the episode. Matthias Cordes, welcome to Fractional.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. So, Matthias, it looks like after your university life, you directly did the freelance life. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, that's correct. And also thank you for having me. Looking forward to this conversation. Yeah, as you stated, that's correct. So I started freelancing directly after university. I've been doing it like on the side, not full time, while I was a student. So yeah, to be precise, I started freelancing while I was at university, but then after graduating, I pursued my career full time as a freelancer.
In one of your YouTube videos, right, you said that in the way you made your career decisions, you had like 5 examples there. Like you have this hedgehog concept by Jim Collins, the importance of experiences, talking to people that you know, looking at your childhood, and looking at your superpowers. Which one of those did you use to decide?
I was basically searching for answers myself, like to have like a framework or anything that could help me make the right decisions or find a direction for my career. But in the end, I think it was more simple than one would suspect. So what I did was basically try a lot of things during my studies, like different types of design work. And by doing so, figuring out what I enjoy and what I do not enjoy, and then always simply double down on what I enjoy doing most, but also keeping in the back of my mind that it has to be something which, of course, allows me to make money. So I couldn't decide so I made sure to not only follow the passion that I have or the passions, but also make sure that this is actually something that can sustain me. And I noticed that web design is something there's a demand for. Like there are so many different types of businesses that need or want a website for their business. So that was what I ultimately chose. And there were a few other directions that I was exploring. So I was also interested into filmmaking, for example, videography. That was also a passion, but then at some point I decided that I want to focus more or specialize in one creative domain. And and I think one of the big advantages that I personally saw in regards to web design was the more flexibility that it gave me to work where and when I want. So yeah, I think that's mainly how I ended up here.
Yes, we love flexibility here at Fractional, and I'd say it's like that's like a universal theme, right, for most freelancers. You talk a little bit about clients, and I noticed that in one of your videos 3 years ago, again, that you held a certain experiment around choosing a client. How do you decide whether it's worth it to take a client or not?
Okay, yeah, in that sense, I think there are, I think other freelancers or in general in this industry, they call this red flags, red flags. So indicators that you get where you decide, I definitely won't take this project. Right. So it could be that someone, to give an easy example, you might be discussing a potential project with the client, but they sort of say like, we need this ASAP and to be done in 4 weeks. And then, okay, this would be the time frame, but I know that my process takes so and so long. So, okay, then, it's a red flag. In no way I will take on this project, because from experience, I know that it would get too stressful, as an example. So I think there are a few things that I learned on the way regarding how to identify if a project is a good fit for my freelance business, or a project, or a client.
What's your advice for your peers, or perhaps for new freelancers coming in? Like, how should they think about choosing a client?
I mean, there are a few parameters, like the one I mentioned about, does the timeline fit? Does the uh, a few things that are like measurable, right? Like timeline, budget, perhaps style or expectations that the client has. If you can meet those, like those are things you simply identify, and I think also get better at simply with experience. Like what signs you need to look out for. And then it often also is just a gut feeling. So if you talk to someone, you sometimes have like a feeling in your gut, right? Could this work? Because it's not just about the project itself, which I think, of course, ideally it gets you excited, the project itself. But then you also have to keep in mind that you're a service provider, and especially when it comes to design, which is often subjective and requires alignments and iterations where you work closely with the client. You should take into consideration who are you going to work with, because you are basically a team, and if you work in a team, you want to have a great team.
Speaking of being a service provider, I noticed that you are a Webflow professional partner. And when I checked the website of, the qualifications, seems like a long list. And there's a long, long, long queue of people trying to apply. Um, what's it like being one? And how did you get there?
First, I found out about the experts program. I thought, okay, let's try to get in there, because basically I knew that when you are an official Webflow expert, you get listed in their directory and get discovered by potential clients, and then you get more requests, more leads, and more clients. And back in the days when I was applying, the process was different. So I can't really speak so much about how this is going now and what's important and so on. Back then, I think I had to submit 3 projects and meet some requirements, of course, right? How the page is structured and simply the quality of the build. But by then, I already had, I think, a year or more experience as a Webflow developer, and I had some experience with HTML and CSS. So I sort of knew how to build good front ends, and I applied and I got in relatively quickly, and for me back then, I was happy, of course, once I got the news that I got accepted as a Webflow professional partner or expert. And then I also got leads, like more project requests. So that was pretty nice. I got a few really nice client projects there in the first year or so. But I also noticed, like, to be fully transparent, that more and more people get accepted into the program, and I think there's consequently more competition. Well, maybe there's also it depends on the demand as well, right? But I noticed that I get way less project requests via the platform these days. So I think if someone considers applying there, I would not fully rely on it. Like, once I'm an official expert, like my career would change or anything, maybe. But I think it's also important to do like your own marketing or outreach when you're starting out to build like your client base.
You're correct. You shouldn't rely on just having that badge of honor of being a Webflow partner, right? And you talked about doing
Maybe
your
I
own
have to add. I don't care.
and finding your own leads.
Sorry if I interrupt. Because you're talking about it as a badge or as a reward. That didn't matter so much for me. How should I explain this? Like, I mean, you get some recognition perhaps from the community, or you can have this label that you put on your website, but I'm not sure how much it really means anymore, because it can help to build some sort of trust, but it's not a guarantee that once someone is a Webflow expert and you hire that person, that you get a perfect or a very good site. Like, I have a bit of a mixed thoughts on it, and it was also never like a career goal or something. I applied, I got accepted, which was great. It helped me get clients, but I don't define my success or my achievements by rewards that I get, but more by the results that I deliver to clients. Just to add this.
I see. Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. And speaking of results, right? You just completed this website for Repair Fix, right? A German company, and I saw it and it was pretty good. It's like blazing fast, same as your website. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about your recent project?
Right. I think I announced it 2 days ago or something on Twitter, the project I was working on. I do not want to get too specific on the client project, but when it comes to page speed, I can say in general, for those who are working with Webflow, that it comes with like out of the box great performance in general. But depending on how complex your site is, of course, how many external scripts you load into the site, how well you prepared assets like images before you upload them to the site, this can all affect the performance and how Google scores your page. And there are tricks you can apply. So, for example, for one project that I've been working on, the one you mentioned for Repair Fix, we work with a lot of videos, right? Which is not uncommon for web design projects. But if you embed videos, those can, of course, negatively affect the performance scores that a website gets, because basically you have to load the entire like video player into the site. And then there are tricks you can apply to still have better performance scores. So, for example, what I usually do is when embedding videos is to not have them load directly on page load, but only later once the initial site has been built up. And also once the user accepts cookies on a site, which is like a requirement in the EU, right? So that because video players usually place cookies, and we are it's legally required that the user is aware of this and accepts this. And so by doing that, for example, you make sure that the video players do not get loaded directly on page load. And then there are, of course, some smaller adjustments that you can make to code snippets themselves to improve the scores of a site.
Cool. I don't think you publish those kinds of snippets, but I'll be interested in finding those out for myself, and I'll probably compress the images on our site too. Like it's been taking forever for me to do that. Something I noticed on your website, Matthias, is that your case studies are so on point. Like it's succinct, it's straight to the point, very striking, and it focuses on the results. Right? Can you speak to us about how you write about your projects?
Yeah, I first, of course, took inspiration from other sites or companies, or in general how they structure case studies. Created some wireframes and thought about what I want to have in there and what the structure would be. But yeah, I also had some external help from copywriters. And that was really eye-opening, because I thought, okay, I have this case study or this client project. I want to write a case study on this. I want these points to be included. But when working with a professional copywriter, they often give you questions to answer, or already have like an outline or a structure in mind for case studies. So that helped a lot. And so the case studies that you see on my site right now, I haven't written them, so they're not from me. I had a set of questions that I asked my client, right? So what were the results, and sometimes it took some digging as well. But I basically just had the data, and then I had help from a copywriter to create those case studies.
Very helpful advice, especially for people who don't want to write their own case studies.
Yeah. I think I just could not have done it on the same level, because I'm not a native English speaker, and yeah, and it's also something I do not necessarily want to focus my time on if someone else can do it better. So yeah.
I took a look at your LinkedIn, Matthias, and like some time ago, you were posting about managing your web design projects, and sometimes it can be quite large. And I noticed that you have talked about Basecamp. Is that your, or is that still your preferred tool when managing your projects, and why, or
Mhm.
why not?
Yeah. So for actually every client I'm working with, or every project that I'm working on, I'm using a project management tool, which is, as you said, Basecamp. And yeah, that's the platform that I'm using to communicate with the client. So instead of having like long email threads or anything, we used it to chat or make announcements. And I also have like by now it's like a template of important to dos, tasks, steps that are relevant for all my design and development projects. And yeah, this also helps my client to give like an overview of where we are in the process, and also what progress is being made. So if I complete some task or anything, they can see it in like a timeline view. And I think that that's pretty helpful to them. And yeah, and if I need things from them, I also list it there. Like I think many designers can relate if they're like working on a web design, but they are missing content from a client. So whatever this could be, like photographs or logos or text elements or something. I add this there as well and tag them. So they always have an overview of what's still required in order for me to continue my work, so that there's nothing like sort of holding us back and that I have to always remind them via email or anything. I just want to have like one source of, not source of truth, but one place where all the important information is collected. And I use this tool like since 2 or 3, I think, but about 2 years now. And so far, I'm still happy with this. I mean, there are other tools out there that could probably get the job done as well. But yeah, I think Basecamp was just one tool that I preferred from the UI or in general how it's set up. And I felt like it's also relatively easy to onboard clients.
When I was in university, I usually read about, DHH and Jason Fried and their ideas about, their different books. And like when they launched Hey.com and, just seeing how Basecamp evolved, it's like,
right.
I like it. I read it, but I've never used it myself though.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Reassuring to hear that someone actually uses it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned it, that you heard about the founders, because I also read some of their books probably at some point about how to work. About I think remote work in general or something, or simply their philosophy on work. So in that sense, that might have been also good marketing, or because I also liked I was also aligning with like the values or their perspectives they had on work. So yeah, maybe that also influenced me.
You've been freelancing while you were at the University of how do I pronounce this? Twente,
yeah.
Twente. Yeah, Twente. It's interesting. So, what kinds of clients were you working with when you were starting out, or was it just you purely just doing side projects?
Yeah, I was just doing smaller side projects, and yeah, I was working for small businesses, like people that I knew that needed help. I also went into back then as a student, into a Facebook group, which was Dutch mostly. I think it was called Dutch Creatives or something, like a larger Facebook group where creatives were posting gigs, or people were asking for help. And then there was a local photographer that needed help. And by that, I got like my first clients. Later on, I used a platform called eBay Kleinanzeigen, now called Kleinanzeigen in Germany. It's like I forgot or I don't know the English words for it, but I think it's comparable to Craigslist in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of like a marketplace, basically, where you go to buy used stuff. I think mostly, like if someone is selling their guitar or anything, or their old car, you can post it there, and people in your neighborhood or in your city can search for things and buy things. And there were not many like professional or many web designers on that platform, so that's sort of how I found like a small a platform or a way to find my first clients. And it was a suggestion by another university student.
Well, shout out to your friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really cool, and I really like that. Just you went all the way to freelancing, because usually people are scared, right, on just going at it like literally after graduation, like or I'm not sure if that's like a usual path for people in Germany though.
No, it's not a common path, and I also had like people recommend maybe continue studying for now, or find a job at a like real company to gain experience and so on. And I think that's all fine. But I think at that point when I was graduating, I really was driven to try things out by myself. I also met a friend at university who also wanted to start it and was sort of like motivated to learn a lot about digital marketing and yeah, for me mostly design. And then we were studying together and sort of decided together to start a company. And I think that was also something I would say that I feel like sort of we pushed or helped each other together to get started. I think it's less scary if you're not starting on your own. But yeah, in any way, I always felt like yeah, wanting to start something on my own.
So you started this small partnership and company. It's I think it's advanced concept, right? Like you called it that with your
Right.
friend. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we decided to start a small agency together and worked on several client projects. And back then, did yeah, it was sort of for both of us like I'd say a discovery phase because we had to figure things out, like right, like what types of service we want to offer, what are we like really good at, and yeah, it was a fun time. I did some web design work. We did some video productions for our clients. Built web shops. We're doing SEO and doing online campaigns like Facebook ads. So that was, for example, something my co-founder then was more responsible on, while I focused on creating websites, online shops, and videos. But yeah, as you can hear already by me speaking about it, we were offering like many different services. And but I noticed at some point that there are things I enjoy more or and enjoy less, and I also noticed that I needed to focus on something in order to become truly good at it. So it's difficult if you want to, as an example, because we were speaking about it. It was difficult to learn like or become good at development using Webflow when you also spend much of your time working with WordPress or producing videos, right? And although I enjoy it and might have continued doing so if this was like my unique combination that I really enjoyed, I wanted to get more into the depth of web design and web development. And so, yeah, at one point I decided I only want to do that for a while. And yeah, that's where I ended up and sort of stayed like in this niche, you could say.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And
I could see it
mhm,
in your, it, I could see it in your background, in your current video stream right now. Like there's ambient lighting, there's natural light on like a Rembrandt lighting situation on your face. Very nice camera, very nice audio. Like, yo, this person knows how to do videos.
yeah, that's
100% sure.
thank you. Yeah, but that's a good point. Like back then, I was like, let's say, anxious sometimes or insecure because I didn't know like what I really wanted to do. Like, right, I was exploring all these different things, and um, at some point, it just became more clear over time. And it's interesting how I could use like skills or I developed or hobbies I had, such as filmmaking, later on in my career. Right. So now I'm working as a web designer and Webflow developer, but the skills I learned during creating videos helped me to now have like a professional like setup, right? So that when I do interviews like this, or when I talk to clients, or if I want to record YouTube videos, this helps me, right? So I know how to sort of have a professional setup, how to edit videos, and yeah, I was happy to. I think I can be happy to now have the skills, and yeah, just one thing to add there. Also, once I decided to double down on web design and working with technology companies, and also investing more time and effort into marketing. I had to in the beginning because nobody knew me, basically, in this sort of startup scene. Writing online and being visible by creating like text-based posts. I also made a lot of videos on LinkedIn where I was redesigning websites. So I was taking a look on the website, made a redesign of the hero section, and then explained my process, like what my design decisions were, and put it out on LinkedIn. And this initially, I think, really helped me to not only advance my design skills, because I think this was a really good practice in the beginning, but it also helped me to get recognized and to build trust. Back then,
That's
I
a
didn't
really
have
smart way.
I didn't have a great portfolio or many reference that I could show, but I could show let's say founders or marketing managers of companies I could imagine working with. They were seeing my videos, so I could share my videos and show them like this is what I did or how I work.
People listening in, you should like steal that marketing tactic, provided you have the same skills as Matthias
Yeah, and the same
on video
interests.
and film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I think it's really difficult to sustain this. Like even for me, it was difficult because it was a lot of work, and I didn't feel so comfortable back then in front of the camera. Um, but yeah, depending on what you enjoy, you can make a decision like what type of marketing activity works best for you.
Because in your language earlier, you were talking about you do Webflow design and Webflow development. Do you really separate those two?
I do some projects that are only development, and so I get a finished sort of design as a Figma project or something from my client, and I only do the development. And I have projects where I do the initial design and later on build the site. And both parts of it I enjoy, and but I see this as two separate things. I never design directly in like a website building tool such as Webflow. I always use a graphic software to come up with a web design, and that's Figma. Previously, that was like very early in my career when I started. I just used templates, like buy a WordPress template, and then sort of come up with a site structure on the way and adjust it or expand the page on based on client feedback. But yeah, once the projects got uh, more design driven, or once web design mattered more and the projects also get more complicated, I noticed I have to split this up. And so when I create a web design, yeah, I do this completely in a graphic software, and also there is like a conceptual phase or a strategy phase I do with the client, right, where we first try to figure out what they really need and how a deep design can or the web design can help their business. We talk about how the site is going to be structured. We create wireframes so that we can see where different types of contents get placed on the site. So that's a lot of like strategic planning that happens first, because before creating the detailed visual design. And then once I start development, the design should be at a point where it's like 100% done. Like also the copywriting, maybe you replace an image or a Lottie animation later because it's still work in progress. But I really try to have a process where, you first create the design, spend time on that to really nail like the overall requirements, the structure for the site, then do the visual design for all the pages, even for like the menus and everything. And only once everything is ready, I start building the site, because I think that's the best process, the easiest.
You co-create the design with strategic aspects with the client, do it all and manage it with Basecamp and use Figma. I saw you using Sketch before on your YouTube videos, but we all know it's dead. And then you hand it off to yourself when it's 100% done with the right copy, the right visuals,
Yeah.
and it's very complete.
It's really annoying, not only for you as a developer, when we start building a site and you notice, okay, I have to skip this part, I have to skip that, I can't compress this asset and add it to the site because we don't have it that, like a cheese with holes, right? It's not completely, if for the cheese it's not the case, but for your project it's like you have something and it's like a Schweizer Käse, I think we say in Germany, where like things are missing, and then you have to go back and get an overview of what's missing, and piece by piece add things later, and maybe things are crucial for the site, and then your launch gets delayed because something is missing. So I really try to push us as a team then sort of to have everything ready before we start development. And and regarding Figma, the reason I switched from Sketch to Figma is because of what you just mentioned, the collaboration aspect. So especially in the beginning of a project, it's very much it's very collaborative. Like for the development, I can almost work like completely on my own, right? Often I discuss with the client things like integrations and so on for the site, but most of the time I can just build the thing on my own schedule. I have everything available and just do my work. In the strategy phase, so in the initial phase of a project, it's more collaborative, where I have like a short workshop with the client and we brainstorm together the ideal structure for the site in Figma by leaving comments. Right, the client asks, can we move this section here, or can we add this there, or we have another case study, where can we feature it? Like we work very collaboratively, mostly in Figma then, and using comments, and sometimes the copywriter is involved. So once I create the wireframes, the copywriter can jump into the project directly and just adjust copywriting based on the wireframes, or I adjust the wireframe slightly based on the copywriting or the content that we have on the site. So everything is very, I don't want to say messy, but maybe also a bit messy, but collaborative. It's a very creative way of collaborating, I'd say, and that helps to really nail down the fundamental things in order to later on have a successful design and development phase.
The way you're talking about it actually really excites me. Like I go want to work on my sites, on my Webflow sites right now. The way you're talking about it, and it's a lot of fun, right? Like just doing something from scratch and collaborating with the client and getting it to the finish line. There's a lot of adrenaline that happens. I mean, that's how I feel when I do the Webflow sites myself and collaborate with other people.
Yeah, it's a common like up and downs, right? Sometimes it can be a bit stressful because you're working on a deadline, or sometimes you get stuck somewhere and have to search for a solution. But then on the other hand, of course, it can also be really rewarding. Like I think there are always this type of moments.
And when you're stuck at something and then you visit like the forum or like the university website, like Webflow University websites or whatever, and it's outdated. I don't know if you experienced those moments, or like there's a bug and it's unfixed. Like
or you find the thread that you were looking for on Google, and then you open it, and there is no answer yet or something. That happens. So what I usually do is, I think when I get really stuck, like things that often help me is either the forums or the Webflow University, or even asking their support. Like I think Webflow support is really good, as long as it's not related to custom code, which is understandable. And Yeah, and if I really get stuck, like mostly if that happens, that's for me like very technical subjects, right? So I still see myself more as a designer or someone who develops with Webflow. But if they're like more complex custom code requirements for a site or integrations, which is not often the case because I'm mostly building marketing sites and not like any complex web apps or anything. But then I reach out to a developer from my network who can help me. And now recently I also started using ChatGPT more often, but generally for like only for like basic things. If I want some custom behavior of navigation bars, for example, which I think sometimes you can accomplish things with the in Webflow with interactions, but I sometimes feel like it's not ideal, or there's a better way to do this with code. And then I asked ChatGPT, like, could you please add a thin borderline to this sticky navigation bar once I scroll the site by, let's say, 64 pixels, right? And if you give those like precise prompts, it usually comes up with a solution that works right out of the box. That
That's really smart. Like I've never thought of that.
yeah. So that's one example for navigation bars. I think there were like a few cases where I wanted things like borderlines or background colors to change, or what else was there? Yeah, there were another few good cases where it was pretty helpful. So I was surprised by that, and I heard from this from other developers that they are actually using ChatGPT, and I was a bit skeptical, but it helped me like help solve small issues and also learn how to code. Like, right, you can say, please add more comments so that even designers can understand it, or let's say beginners, right? And then you see line by line, okay, what's happening, how this works. I think that's also important. Like, I never feel comfortable, I think, putting code into a Webflow, into a client project when I don't understand like what this code is doing. I mean, sometimes you have to, right? When you embed like scripts, and you have like the YouTube video and, but yeah.
That's so funny. Like, I mean, I can relate because like for a few years ago, when no code has not been the in thing yet. Like I also did some manual markup work, HTML and CSS, adding random Frankenstein code together, pulling in different source JS things, and like, what is this? What does
Yeah.
this do? I think ChatGPT helps you out, like solve a lot of the understanding there.
Yeah. But even that, I would verify. Like, I had one case where I wanted to accomplish something that was more complex with ChatGPT, and I also got it working, which was like which I thought was like a great accomplishment. And then I showed it to my to a developer I'm oftentimes working with, and he was looking at the code and like, this could be more efficient, right? Or there's a better way to do this. So yeah, always good to stay skeptical, I think.
Don't be afraid to use it, but stay skeptical and show it to, you know, another pair of eyes that can tell if it's great or not.
Yeah, I think that can help in most cases.
Yes, what's your advice to all of the fractional designers, developers, marketing people listening to you right now?
What helped me the most in getting where I'm now with my freelance career, which is at a spot where I'm relatively happy, figuring out what you want in the first place, where you want to go. And if you don't know, just try different things. And at some point, there's probably something that will stick, or where you will see like, okay, that's what I enjoy, where I want to be. And not being afraid of asking for help, not being afraid in general when trying something, because thinking about what's the worst case, like what could go wrong. And in general, like when it comes to freelancing, that's often like, what if it doesn't turn out? I think for many that try this, there's still the option to uh, do something else, like get another job. Like at least that's that's what I hope, or at least that's what I could say. Like if I think about like, or if I get anxious, like what am I going to do if this is not working out anymore? Then I think I would still find a different job that I could do, and then yeah, I would probably wait patiently and do the next thing once the time is there.
All right, Matthias, thank you so much for being on Fractional.
Yeah, thank you for having me.